Okay, well, good morning, everybody. We're delighted for you to join us for the second Coffee with the Mayor for this year. We're going to change up the format a little bit. Instead of the mayor, we're going to have Niroop Srivatsa present us, who is the city manager. She's not been on our calls in the past, and she does a lot with a great team to help the city run well. So we're going to go ahead and get started. For those of you who are new to our format, we'll start off with some introductory remarks from Niroop. And then after she's done, we'll get right into questions. We've had some questions that were submitted ahead of time, and I've got those in front of me, and we'll go through those. You can also always type a question online in the chat box, and we will get to that. Or finally, you can just raise your hand on Zoom and I will call on you as soon as I see that. The call is being recorded. And then on the chat box, just keep your eye on that because we occasionally will post links to different sites where you can get more information about some of the questions that are being asked. So to introduce our guest speaker, Niroop has been with the city of Lafayette for 28 years. She has served as a planning director and community development director prior to her assignment as city manager in 2019. She's got 35 years of government experience advising city councils on land use, fiscal policy, growth, and housing and economic development. She is, in her spare time, also a member of the Lafayette Chamber of Commerce and the Assistance League of Diablo Valley. She serves on a number of different boards, and she's also a commissioner on the California Statewide Community Development Authority. But most importantly, she is a member of the Lafayette Rotary Club, which is the best Rotary Club in all of Lafayette. So I certainly had to bring that up. So with that introduction in mind, Niroop, I will turn it over to you for some of your introductory remarks, and then we'll get into a Q&A.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. It's wonderful to see familiar, loved faces and new ones that I hope to get acquainted with. Please reach out to me if you have any questions. As Matt said, I've worked for Lafayette for a very long time. I joined in 1992. And truly love this community and raise my kids here. And it's very difficult to, once you're here, to think of going anywhere else because this is really a community that cares. Matt asked me to touch briefly on the role of a city manager. You've heard from the mayor in the past, and the mayor is an elected position. So I'm just going to take a couple of minutes explaining the role of a city manager, and then I'm open to questions you might have. I may not be able to answer all of them, but I commit to making sure that you get the responses in a timely manner. So Holly, could we have the slide presentation? Thank you. Next. So who is a city manager? The city manager is one of two positions that the elected city council appoints. Or it's the city manager and the city attorney. It's the position is not an elected position, it's an appointed position. So I serve the 5-member city council who are elected. And my role is to listen to the city council and the community and implement the vision and the broad goals of the elected city council. If you could think, it's not directly similar, but somewhat similar to a board of directors in a private organization and the CEO, where the board establishes broad policies and the city manager implements the policies with the assistance of staff. The city council does not get involved in the day-to-day operations of the city, Rather, they let me know if things are not going well or if things are going well, and I make sure that things get corrected. The city has 5 departments, administration, which includes finance, accounting, HR, IT, risk management, public art, city clerk, and other administrative functions. Then there is public works and engineering, and public works engineering builds the roads, builds the facilities, and public works maintains it, as well as maintaining our medians and all the public infrastructure in the city. Planning and building handles development. All development on private property usually gets channeled or siphoned through planning. The planning department also does long-range planning, like the preparation of a general plan, the update to the housing element. And the building department, we can contract with Contra Costa County, and they issue building permits and conduct building inspections. Parks, trails, and recreation, the name says it all. We have the main facility is located on St. Mary's Road, and that's where the Parks Department has all its recreation programs. And the Parks Department also builds and maintains parks and wonderful trails throughout the city. And finally, our police department, we contract with the Contra Costa County Sheriff's Department for our police services. But as you will see and note on the roads, all police who work for Lafayette wear Lafayette uniforms. Our cars have Lafayette logos on them. And our police chief, Ben Allred, has been with us for, I want to say, 5 to 6 years now, and we are delighted to have him on board. We do have 5 city employees within the police department to handle the administrative and parking enforcement functions. So those are the 5 departments of the city. And all the staff is responsible for what I say, keeping the lights on in the city, whether it's paving a street, handling code enforcement, processing a development application, making sure that the library is spick and span every single day. That's the responsibility of city staff. Next slide, please. As I mentioned before, I take direction from the city council, as does staff. And every year the city council establishes its focus or priorities. Now, I want to say that this doesn't mean that the city staff only focuses on these items. Rather, it's an additional focus or an additional task that we take on. One of the tasks this year and last year has been fiscal sustainability, making sure that our financial health is stable in the long term. Wildfire prevention and emergency preparedness, I think that's been on our minds and on the minds of all Californians. And we work closely with the fire department on this. Safe streets for all, making sure that Lafayette provides safe accommodations, not only for cars, but for pedestrians and bicyclists, and for anyone who uses our public infrastructure, and provides safe means of travel from neighborhoods to parks, from parks to the downtown. And then finally, the downtown plan. We are working on updating part of the general plan, which is called the housing element. It's a state mandated task, and we are required, like all other cities in California, to accommodate additional growth. In Lafayette, that additional growth is anticipated primarily in downtown. And so planning for it ahead of the growth is a sensible thing to do, the right thing to do. And the council is focusing on how we accommodate this growth, how we make it a welcoming downtown for all, how to retain business and improve our economic viability. So in 2023, 24, and perhaps 24, fiscal year 24, 25, these 4 priorities will be front and center on council's mind and on the city staff's mind. Next slide, please. Just a very brief overview on who pays for all this. We operate on a general fund budget of about $20 million. The majority of our revenues come from property tax and sales tax. I just want to point out here something that I learned along the way, that not all cities are equal by way of receiving property tax. When we incorporated in 1968, we incorporated as a low property tax city, which means that for every property tax dollar that we receive from the state, we get about 6 cents to that dollar. Let's compare it to, say, a city like Richmond or Dublin or most cities which are not low property tax cities. They get upwards of 20 cents to the dollar. So what does that mean? It means that unlike most of the cities in California, Lafayette doesn't get its total share of property taxes because we are a low property tax city. What does that mean by way of revenues to the city? So if you had a house that was assessed at $1 million, the city gets $600 from that house, a property owner, every year. So while we are an affluent community, we are not an affluent city government, so to speak. We manage our resources carefully. We are fiscally conservative. We have a general fund reserve standard of 60%. But it continues to be a challenge given inflation and unfunded state mandates to continue to provide the quality services that our residents need. But we do it, and we do it with, next slide, please, this amazing set of staff members that I'm proud to call my colleagues. Lafayette has 51 full-time employees. We contract a number of our duties. As I mentioned, building inspection is contracted, as is the police services. We also contract for maintenance services. So we try to, we're a combination of dedicated Lafayette staff and contract staff. And then here I want to mention that we couldn't do what we do without the tremendous network of volunteers that the city has. We have a number of commissions and committees, and those people volunteer their time free of cost to making Lafayette a better place in which to live and work. And with that, I'm done. Open it up to questions and happy to answer.
Well, great, Niroop. Thank you for that overview. I thought that would be helpful for everybody to get a sense of where you spend your time and how the city resources itself. I'm going to start with a couple of questions that have come in before the call. A couple of them, one was from Karen Mulvaney, and the other one was from Elizabeth Henry. And it had to do with the housing units that are being built on the corner of Dolores and Mount Diablo. Those have been under construction for a fair period of time. There's been some disruptions on the street as they've been working on it. The questions were, why is this taking so long, and what can the city do to move things along and mitigate some of the issues that arise from that construction?
Thank you for that question, Karen. It is taking a long time, and I know that because I was the project planner for that development, and that Lennar project was approved, I believe, back in 2016. So it's taken a tremendous amount of time. Once we issue building permits, it's really the property owner who is charged with completing the project. We currently do not have any deadlines or mandates as to when a project is to be completed. Typically, once a building permit is secured, people are anxious to build because they have loans to pay off and they're anxious to make sure that the homes are sold. In Lennar's case, it has been a struggle. I think there have been some internal changes in the organization, in the construction team. It has been a struggle. The city has been inspecting the project on a daily basis, convenient because you're located just across from the city offices. In hindsight, I would say lessons learned, perhaps we should impose a deadline for construction. But in this housing climate where the financing, the interest rates are high and it's difficult to get loans, we're finding that the housing market is somewhat sluggish. I don't know whether that's directly affected Lennar, but it certainly has on other entitled projects. The city did collect some revenues from Lennar whenever a private development uses on-street parking for its purposes. We do collect fees. So we have collected fees from Lennar over a period of time. They hope that the project will be completed in the fall of 24. I would say, I think that's ambitious. There's a lot of work to be done, not so much on the street, but within the project itself. So it could be a little longer. There is a brewery planned for the corner. It's called Western Flyer Brewery. They did receive their approvals from the city late last year.
Okay, thank you.
May I please interject, Matt?
Very briefly, Libby, very briefly.
Well, because you missed the main point of my question. It was about their ability to block the traffic. I don't care about their stupid.
Okay, Libby, let me take the question. Niroop, what Libby's question had to do with is the traffic issues that are in front of it. Could you address that briefly?
I'd be happy to answer that.
Can't the city do something?
I'd be happy to answer that. Part of Lennar's requirement when they got their approvals was that they would improve the sidewalk in front of their project, improve the road on the north side of Mount Diablo Boulevard, install medians, a signal, and landscaping. So while the first few years of construction was completely on site, we will not grant an occupancy permit to Lennar until they fulfill their obligations to do the on-street improvements, which is what they have been doing for the last 6 months. And so when you have to repave a road, add medians, install a signal, install the decorative crosswalks across the boulevard, there is going to be a stoppage of traffic. There is going to be diversions. It is difficult, and it is, I experience it every day. It's not convenient at all, but the end is in sight. And I am sorry for all of you who have had to go through that, but it's a responsibility of the developer to complete those tasks for the improvement of the city before we give them occupancy.
Okay, another question came up, and I think it has to do with the safe streets, the issue you brought up earlier, Niroop, and this also came from Karen, and it has to do with an update on the ability of residents using private funding for things such as radar speed signs in and out of the neighborhoods, specifically the Happy Valley areas. Is there anything that citizens can do to assist in that area?
Well, Kevin, first of all, thank you for asking that question. Last year, the city council authorized a substantial budget to buy speed radar signs, black boxes that track speed. We've launched a Slow Down Lafayette campaign, but we don't have sufficient number of Slow Down Lafayette or radar signs for all the streets in Lafayette. I did pose your question to the chief last evening. He's willing to entertain that. I'd be happy to follow up with you to see if private contributions can be accepted for additional safety on the streets. I'll get back to you next week. I do want to make a plug for the Slow Down Lafayette campaign. It was launched last year. There is a page on our website, Slow Down Lafayette, where you can go in and look at the speed counts and speed volumes on a number of our streets. And it strikes me, and I'm mindful about it as well, is we complain about people speeding, but those people are us. We're the ones who for the most part, drive on our streets. So I think we all need to be mindful of the fact that we need to set a good example and slow down as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Thank you, Niroop.
Thank you, Niroop. Niroop, a question came in from Beth, and the question is, what does the city do about holding property owners responsible for properties that are not being well kept up, that they're either unoccupied or maybe even abandoned? She referenced an issue with a tree that fell, and although the city was very prompt in cleaning it up off the street, it's still a nuisance. What are the city's options, and how would a resident or a business work with the city to try to address that issue?
Thank you, and hi, Beth. I thank you for that question. I did speak to code enforcement and public works, so I'm not going to mention where it is, but there's a house. It is vacant. A tree on the property fell onto a neighbor's property. The debris is still on the property. It's unsightly. What does one do about it? So thanks to, I think, the neighbors, we were able to reach the property management company. They were contacted. They have received an estimate to clean the debris from the front yard, and they expect that to take place in a couple of weeks. I do know there are additional concerns about the house, like the peeling paint and generally not good upkeep. Now, this is where it gets, we do have a property maintenance code in the municipal code. So our code enforcement officer will follow through on that. We do issue citations if there is non-compliance, and that's a monetary fine. The property owner has a right to appeal to the Code Enforcement Appeals Board, which is appointed by the council. In very extreme cases, and in my tenure here, I can count maybe 2, if not 3, very extreme cases where there is a health and safety issue. There was a tree growing through the center of the house and damaging the roof. In those cases, the city steps in and we declare the house a nuisance. And with the help of our city attorney, there is a receiver appointed to the property. The property is cleaned up, the expenses, and the property is then sold. The city recoups its expenses, and the remainder goes to the heirs of the property. But that is in very, very rare cases, and it really, truly has to be a health and safety issue. But both code enforcement and public works are aware of this situation, and code enforcement will follow up. We were also able to contact the property owner, who is, I believe, out of the country. So we have his number as well.
Okay, I'm glad you have his number because no one else has been able to get it. Niroop, the tree came down at 3:30 in the afternoon when people were leaving St. Perpetua's. A mother with 3 children in the car. Yeah, it came down just as she had gone through. It was terrifying. This is not the first time part of that property so there is a safety concern. We are really concerned safety wise as well. So this did happen over a month ago. And because the man lives outside the country, no one has any way so that's why, and I do appreciate, I have to say, the city was amazing, right there, taking care of it. And so people feel helpless because there's no way this man doesn't live in this country and he has no investment. He just got this property.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I also wanted to add something to Karen's comment about the safety, that one of the things we did on Moraga Road, right where Hamlin and Tanglewood come in, is the city put in those crosswalks. But before that, we did flags that actually Sustainable Lafayette paid for. And that helped slow down the traffic and make it a little safer to cross Moraga Road there. So that was something citizens were able to do. But anyway, thank you. I appreciate that very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Another question, I think this goes to the category of fire safety, wildfire issues, Niroop, is what is the status of the PG&E tree removal program that's been ongoing?
Yes. Just for those who don't know, back in 2017, PG&E initiated something called the Community Pipeline Safety Initiative all across California. And the goal, they said, was they wanted an easy way to monitor their underground gas pipelines. So their goal was to clear cut all vegetation and trees so that they could do aerial assessments of the pipelines. Not surprisingly, almost all the cities protested, and in Lafayette, and there was litigation, which I will not get into here, but in Lafayette in 21, in order to avoid litigation, we reached out to PG&E and said, you have 207 trees that you want to remove in Lafayette. Rather than litigate that in court, why don't we work together? We'll hire each a gas pipeline safety expert and an arborist, and let them come together and come out with a plan of what trees can remain and what trees have to be removed. It has been a long process. Parties didn't agree, see eye to eye, but finally we've come to a point where the reports are done. We're looking at it. It may take a while for the city to undertake the next step, which would be have public meetings once both parties decide or agree on trees to stay, which we hope is the majority, and those that need to be removed. So we don't have any meetings scheduled as yet for this PG&E item, but it could happen later in 24.
Okay. A question came online, Niroop, with this goes back to the whole safety issue, is what is the state of Nixle, and does the city still use this? Allison said she's not seen any notifications recently.
Thank you. It has been a question that has been raised by the city council as well. And so on April the 8th, the chief of police will be before the council describing our use of Nixle. Different cities use different types of warning systems. There are different gradations of warning. It's some cities tend to use Nixle as the stop sign is down on X and Y streets, don't go there. Or others are more prudent with the use of Nixles and only use it when there is an actual road blockage or something more major. And then finally, there is the community warning system that I hope everyone has signed up to. When there is an earthquake, a fire, this access to the community warning system the system will notify you of a true emergency. So please do sign up for that. We are somewhere in between in the use of Nixle. We are looking at ways to communicate better with the public when there are incidents in the downtown or elsewhere. It's still a work in progress, meaning our recommendation to the City Council, because it comes with a price, a cost as well. Nixle is a private app. It's not a county app. It's a costly app. So we're still working on how best to use it. So please do attend or via Zoom or in person the April 8th council meeting. We will have hopefully a robust discussion on that.
Another question came in, which was, and you touched on this earlier, which was the fiscal sustainability of the city. There's been some articles in Vista about, kind of where our money comes from. You touched on it also, and then obviously where it goes as it goes out to spend things. But a person asked, would you be willing to take suggestions from citizens and businesses, I'm assuming, on how to raise money for the shortfall that we may experience in the future? And maybe you could just touch on why we may have somewhat of a shortfall in the future.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for that. Yes, the City Council, as I mentioned, one of their priorities is fiscal sustainability. They have been looking at it for the last couple of years. We anticipate in not this current fiscal year, the next fiscal year, that we will start seeing structural deficits of 10% or $2 million a year. And we, luckily, like most cities in California, we received one-time funds from the federal government called the American Rescue Plan Act funds, ARPA. That has helped us tide over these years, and we do have funds until next year for that. There are many reasons for this shortfall. We have unfunded state mandates. As an example, we have a stormwater pollution requirement that comes to all cities from the state. It's unfunded, and the requirements increase on an annual basis. We have a current budget gap in that fund of $300,000 a year. Perhaps our most significant increase has been road maintenance. In order to receive state and federal funding, all cities are required to maintain their roads, not build new, just maintain their roads at a healthy pavement condition index, PCI. And we have to file reports with the state annually committing to this maintenance and also proving that we do. The cost to repair our local roads has increased about 75% in the last 5 years. And that it's almost $1 million it's $1 million increase, which we had not anticipated years ago. And that has to do with labor, and it has to do with materials. It has to do with the additional requirements that we now have from the state on managing our stormwater and green infrastructure. So these are a couple of examples of why we anticipate the structural shortfall. The council is embarking on an informational outreach, and the city staff as well. And please sign up for that. You can go to the city's website, e-notification, and sign up for fiscal sustainability. And Suzanne, please tell me if I'm saying that correctly. We've dedicated a page to it. It'll tell you about the meetings that we are going to schedule in the upcoming months to let people know about our finances. So I encourage all of you to participate. And yes, Matt, to directly answer your question, the city is always open and willing to hear ideas. And absolutely.
Good. We've got someone with their hand up, Cheryl McDonald. If you can unmute yourself and ask Niroop your question.
Hi, Cheryl.
Hi, good morning. I had kind of two questions, if I can get them in. One has to do with the road safety plan and parking. And so on the East End, we have a lot of small businesses. And so the concern over the last decade has been how to improve things, or when you improve things, if the parking will stay at the maximum level for each business. So if you have straight in parking towards the business, straight in, you have the most amount of parking. If you make it into diagonal, it takes away less. And if you put a sidewalk in, and then you have parking like at Leslie Pools, you have the least amount. And is that something that is being part of the that road safety plan in regards to parking for small businesses? That was my first question.
Cheryl, that's a great question. And I know we've talked about this. In fact, if I recall, the downtown specific plan recognizes the unique character of the East End and says that we're not going to mandate that everybody has parallel parking, that we will work with the community to develop templates for each block in the East End. Having said that, what's a lot of the parking that's currently before businesses in parts of the downtown is on public property. And the challenge is we want the downtown to be a walkable downtown. And there are parts of the downtown that don't have sidewalks. So you go from a more safe environment as a pedestrian to gravel and perhaps encounter parking in front of you, parked cars in front of you. So the downtown specific plan says our goal is to provide a safe walking path for all in the downtown, where we will still recognize the unique character of the East End and try and accommodate parking, understanding that a lot of this parking for the private businesses is on public property. So I can't answer your question directly. We have not started to drill down on the roadway safety plan on a block-to-block analysis, but the downtown specific plan is our guiding document at this point. And so there needs to be a balance between safe pedestrian travel and accommodating parking.
Okay.
And Cheryl, you had a second question?
Oh, if there's time, that would be awesome. I'll try to keep it quick so other people can ask questions. One is I know you can't talk about this much, and so I'm already respecting that. But the idea with closed session meetings, you've been talking about the downtown, about city offices in closed session. And so my question really is, knowing that you can't answer, giving me an update on that, is more along the lines that we've been buying property the last 5 or 6 years, such as Campanas and other businesses. And what money has been used? Is that coming from the city office fund? And if so, how much what properties have been used with the city office fund? And how much is left in the city reserves? And I guess then that would kind of, those are my two questions along those regards. Knowing you can't talk about the city office project, discussion about Boswell's.
Cheryl, I can answer part of the question, but I have to get back to you because I need to get updated information. You mentioned the city offices fund. It has been the city council's practice that when the city sells a piece of property that it owns, that the money is put into a city offices fund. And that money, the goal is we would collect enough money to be able to purchase land and build city offices. Lafayette is the only city in Contra Costa, my understanding, that rents its city offices. So I don't know the exact amounts. I do know that, so what I will say is I'll get back to you, Cheryl. I do have your email address about the details about how much is remaining. I do know that we used city offices funds for Campana. We do own the Campana property, which is just south of Holly's Homegrown. We purchased this last year, I believe. And so I can get back to you on how much is left over in the city offices.
Can you include, when you get back to you, what other properties have been purchased with the city office fund, like 949 or in like the last 5 or 6 years? Because the city has bought properties. I just don't know where that money came from for purchasing it. That'd be great. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Cheryl. Niroop, we had a question come in online from Dennis Erickson, and you've been with the city for a long time. What project are you most proud of achieving?
Hi, Dennis. Oh gosh, every one of them. I joined the city in 1992, and the downtown wasn't the downtown that we see today. I remember there was a restaurant, the Bart Block, where you have the apartment buildings, the condos, Pizza Antica. That was our corporation yard. So it was a different downtown. There was a whimsical restaurant with a tree growing through the middle. There were gas stations at different corners that no longer exist, and they've been replaced by Lafayette Mercantile. So maybe I would say I love the downtown. Maybe working on the downtown slowly, surely, through redevelopment, through the downtown specific plan. That would be one of them. But I think I get the most joy on the other aspect is when Lafayette commits to providing housing for everyone. And when I sign a regulatory agreement that allows somebody of a lower income to occupy a house in Lafayette, it chokes me up. So I think both the downtown and housing, providing housing for all. We're a welcoming community. We've always said we were, and I'm just so proud of that.
Very good. Other questions that people in the audience want to ask, just raise your hand.
I'm sure Niroop also wanted to include the library in that, no particular.
I said the downtown, Kathy, which meant everything. Yes, absolutely. Oh my, I am the envy of the Contra Costa city managers. Yes, because of the library.
David, good to see you. You have a question?
I do. Thanks. And Niroop, if you can answer this, great. If not, I understand. It came up at the Creeks Committee meeting this week. But the owner at Madison Park agreed to grant 2 easements across that property, one parallel to the creek and one perpendicular that will go from the creek out to Golden Gate Avenue. My question is, are those in place? And a follow-up question, if not, will they still be requirements if that property is sold?
David, to answer your question, if those easements were conditions of approval for the project, those conditions are still valid if the entitlement for the project hasn't lapsed. Project approvals last for about two years. They can be extended. It depends on the nature of the application. I'd be happy to check the status of the entitlement, which means the status of the city approvals. As you say, we have heard that Madison Park, which is it used to be the old Lincoln Prop building south of the library on Golden Gateway, we hear it's on the market. So it's a good question to ask. I will get back to you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, David.
It goes without saying, I'd like those to stay in place. Thank
So,
you.
yes, and you worked hard on it.
Hi, Carol. You had a question?
Yes, Niroop, could you say something about the city council election we're going to have this year?
What? Okay. So the city council, we have a 5-member city council. They run on staggered 2- and 4-year terms. This year we have the 3-year terms were up, I believe, and Carl, correct me if I'm wrong about the length of the term. Anyway, we have 3 council members were scheduled to run for re-election. And we lost a wonderful city council member last year and gained a wonderful city council member this year. But Teresa Geringer left the city council, and John McCormick was appointed by the city council. And so in addition to the 3 council members, John will also be, that seat will also be up for re-election. So this November, there will be 4 council positions up. Did that answer your question, Carol?
Well, when is the filing and what, is it all the same? They all file at the same time or with the 2-year seat or?
Carol, I don't know the answer to that question, but I will get back to you.
Thank you, Carol. Another question came online. And this kind of goes back to where our revenues come from, Niroop. And is it possible to stop being a low property tax city? What are the trade-offs? We get more property taxes, people have to pay more, but what do we have to give up? What are the trade-offs if we were, or can we even make that decision? But if we did make that decision, what are the trade-offs?
I'm going to tell you what I was told when I asked the question many years ago. It's like, we only get 6 cents to the dollar, and look at, I was talking to the Dublin city manager, they get 25 cents to the dollar. But what I was told is that we started off with as a literally no property tax city, and the reason was we did not want to be held beholden to the state, and so we were fiercely independent and wanted to make sure that we planned and we did what we wanted. Property taxes are a huge source of revenue for all cities. And so over the years, with the leadership of the city council, and Dick Holmes was one of them, we were able to, through the legislature, get the amount raised to 0.06 cents. I'm told that it is extremely difficult to change that because the rest of the money is being used by somebody else, whether it's a fire district, the school district, the mosquito abatement control district. So the county, I was told that it was kind of virtually impossible to get that changed. Be happy to look into it again. It is a huge impact on all the no property tax cities because we don't enjoy what we consider our fair share of property taxes. But I'd be happy to investigate that a little more.
Yeah, Niroop, I'll have you follow up with Holly because the question came through her and then she forwarded it to me, and she'll put you in contact with the person that asked that. So we'll have you follow up on that. We've got a few minutes left, and I wanted to give Holly a few minutes to kind of talk about some of the upcoming events with the chamber that this audience might be interested in. So Holly, do you want to take a few minutes before we sign off?
Yeah, I actually may need an hour of everything that's going on for the chamber, but I'll keep it short, especially since my boss is online. But first of all, thank you, Niroop. This is so informational. I think this maxed out our questions for our Coffee with Our Partners series. We had a wide range of questions. Having your overview at the beginning was great. This is going to be a great resource for us to be able to share with the community. I want to give a huge shout out to Suzanne, who's behind the scenes, filling up the chat with all our resources and links to more information. Like Nimrod said, we'll get back to any independent questions through the chamber or through the city. And thanks again to Matt for just, knocking our coffee series out of the park here and coordinating all our great questions. So like I said, the chamber has a zillion things going on, so I'll try to be short and sweet. But of course, if you have any questions, please reach out to us in any way, shape, or form at the chamber. You can also ping our board members and our ambassadors and even your fellow members. So we have 3 subcommittees that are, again, hitting it out of the park. We have a Lafayette Business Women's Group. We have a Young Professionals Group. And next week, we are launching for our first meeting a nonprofit network. So all these groups give the opportunity for our members and our community to come together and network and discuss resources, etc. Next week, we'll also be celebrating our Citizen of the Year. I do have to say we have maxed out our capacity at the Lafayette Park Hotel, but we'll have a lovely evening celebrating John Coleman next Thursday. And just to throw in there, another sold out event or virtually or almost sold out event is our Taste of Lafayette restaurant stroll. There are literally maybe only a dozen tickets left to the Taste of Lafayette. This restaurant stroll is one of our popular events, and it will actually occur on May 21st. So if you want to get in there, get on our website. I did post 2 links in the chat. One is our upcoming coffee with our community partners. Next, we'll have Candace Anderson on April 26th. Then in July, we'll go back to the mayor. Mayor Dawson will have our coffee in July 26th, and then also again in October 25th. And then on August 23rd, we'll actually have Assembly Member Rebecca Bauer-Cahan. So that rounds out our coffee with our community partners for this year. So the links are there in the chat. One of a new exciting event that the chamber is putting on, and it's called the Artisan Walk. So we have a new retail committee that's getting together of business owners from our downtown retail businesses, and they plan to host and promote a wide variety of events throughout the year to encourage people to come downtown, experience our retail and our restaurants. So our first event, the Artisan Walk, will be on Saturday, May 11th. It is the day before Mother's Day. So we encourage you to bring your mom, bring your friends, and shop our local retailers who will also be hosting local artisans. So all kinds of art, and it's going to be from 1 to 4 again on May 11th. So we're excited for that. I'm sure I'm missing a few other events, but our normal signature events that will occur this summer will include our Rock the Plaza concert series. And then please do save the date for the Lafayette Art and Wine Festival, which this year is the 21st and the 22nd of September. Again, please reach out to us if you have any questions. And again, thank you so much, Niroop, Suzanne, Matt, and everyone for joining us.
Great. Thanks, everybody. Niroop, thank you so much for your time, and we appreciate all your support. Holly, nice job. So we will see everybody next time. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.